of that. Thank you. Prior to joining the High Center, Mike was the owner of Amelia's Grocery Outlets and served as its president and CEO from 1997 to 2012. He oversaw all aspects of the 15-store grocery chain with over 400 employees and a 100,000 square foot warehouse. The business was sold to a private equity firm, Berkshire Partners, and Grocery Outlet, Inc., a 442-store chain based in Berkeley, California in January of 2012. Mike is a graduate of E-Town College and has an MBA from the Wharton School of Business. Prior to joining Amelia's, he worked as the marketing manager for several packaged good companies, including Heinz, General Mills, and Unilever. He has served in several board positions with Her Foods, the Boys and Girls Clubs, Lidditz Rec, and several other nonprofit and nonprofit organizations. Mike was the 2010 Lancaster Chambers Small Business Person of the Year and a 2019 Central Penn Business Journal Most Admired CEOs. He's also someone that I highly admire and I've had the pleasure with working with in the past. So please join me in welcoming Mike.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the kind introduction. I'd also like to introduce Dwight Bechtel. Dwight, you want to stand up and say hi to everybody? Dwight is one of our directors at the center, lives here in E-Town, and is also an E-Town alum, so we've got a very strong E-Town connection here. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen about family business. You know, having grown up in, worked in a family business with my dad and my brother-in-law, it's one of the best things, and it's also sometimes one of the more challenging things. Now we work with a lot of other family. In fact, how many of you in some way are connected to a family business? You've either worked with one or know one. Show of hands. Yeah, so quite a few people do. What I'm going to talk to you today is kind of about the state of family business. I was kind of surprised when I left our family business and came to E-Town to work with other family businesses, is how much of a lack of education that there really is, given the predominance of family businesses. So that's kind of what we're going to talk a little bit about today. I'll talk about the economic impact just to show you how powerful family business is. It's a force. I'll also talk about some of the challenges and the education needs that family businesses have. And again, I've been here 10 years now as executive director of the center and work with hundreds of executives from family businesses. So I've got a much better perspective than I did when I was just running my own family business and I was a data point of one. So we'll talk about some of that. We'll also talk about what E-Town is actually on the forefront of family education, and the center started in 1995 with the vision of Dale High, who was way ahead of his time, because you'll see the Ivy League schools are just starting to catch up with family business curriculum. And then I'll talk about some of the political advocacy. They're forming a family business caucus now in DC with senators and representatives who will now represent the needs of family business in DC. So those are kind of things I'm going to try to move through here fairly quickly, but I'll give you an update on some of those things. So here are the numbers. There are 32 million family businesses or family-controlled firms in the United States. They employ 83 million people, and they're not just small. A third of businesses are Fortune 500 family controlled. And they account for $7.7 trillion worth of GDP. That's over half of all goods and services sold are produced by family businesses. So they're everywhere. And they do tend to outperform non-family businesses, and that's not surprising to me, having worked with all these family businesses. They have really strong cultures, they really care about their employees, and they invest their capital for the long term. They're not trying to make money for the quarter to make the stock price go up. They have patient capital, so they're making smarter moves than sometimes. Having worked in public companies, I've seen how stupid they act sometimes to try to get the share price up for a quarter. Family businesses don't do that. They're thinking what's in good for the long haul, so it doesn't surprise me that they are more profitable. The problem is there isn't much family business education out there. And it's hard to start a business. This number's probably a little high, but up to 85% of businesses don't make it. The ones that do, of those, only 30% make it to the next generation. Now, sometimes there's reasons for that, but a lot of times it's a lack of planning, dysfunction in the family. So that's what we're trying to fix. If you want to keep in a family business and you want to keep it to be a legacy, 30% isn't very good. And then it goes down to like 15% for third generation company, and down to like 4% for fourth generation companies. So it just gets harder and harder to perpetuate a family business. And part of that is a lack of understanding and planning. I mean, these are surveys I've done dozens of these now with family businesses, and these numbers are kind of sad. And that's what we're trying to fix. You know, only 17% have a strategic plan. That should be 100%. I mean, I don't care what size company you are. You know, they're not planning, and then they don't have succession plans. You know, we ask on this questionnaire, how important is succession planning to your company? Scale of 1 to 7. It's always a 6.5 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important. Next question, do you have a succession plan?
No.
13% have a succession plan. It's like, okay, you said it's important, but you didn't do it. Because it's hard. I mean, it's really, they don't know how to do it. You gotta talk to your kids, you gotta talk to your spouse. You know, it's not an easy thing to do. So we're trying to fix that, because those are some of the reasons why family businesses don't stay family businesses, and we can fix that. And then 37%, only 37% have a board of directors. So this is what I was shocked by, and I'm still kind of shocked by this, but it's starting to change now. But there's not a lot of family business education out there. And I can speak to that. When I went to school many years ago, entrepreneurship was a new thing, but it was really popular, and I took it. When I went to Wharton, I studied entrepreneurship. So that I learned how to write a business plan, get venture capital, start my business. And that's kind of what we did with Amelia's. You know, we started with maybe 15, 20 employees, and you know, we ended up with 400. But nobody taught me what to do once that business became successful. You know, now I'm dealing with my brother-in-law and my dad, and we're talking about, well, how do we pass this on, and how do we, you know. So we do a really good job of teaching people to start businesses. We don't really teach them how to pass those businesses on. And we gotta fix that, because that's where that number is so low of success rate of family businesses. And you know, they did a study. There are 4,000 classes in entrepreneurship in colleges and universities across the country. There are 75 classes in family business, which is, I don't get it. You saw those numbers I'm quoting. You know, 54% of GDP is generated by family businesses. Where is the family business education? But I think we're on the forefront of that. And again, you know, the Ivy Leagues are just catching up. I mean, Dale formed this center in 1995 because he had a family business, and he saw, you know, the challenges he had in his family business, and he, you know, in 1995 he was out ahead of this thing. But Columbia added family enterprise classes in 2012. I know the guy up at Cornell who runs the Cornell Family Business Center. They just got a $20 million endowment to start a family business center up there, but that wasn't until 2014. And now these classes are filled up. They're, you know, once people get it, they say, you know what, yeah, wow, I should take that. And there's a lot of articles being published now. There's case studies being published. I parallel it to what happened when I was starting out in entrepreneurship. You know, everybody said, well, you better take business administration, you better take accounting, you better, you know, what's this entrepreneur thing? Now entrepreneurship's everywhere. And I think family businesses go along the same path. I think, you know, we're gonna see a lot more family business education to come. This is what E-Town is doing and trying to address this concern. It started with the High Center. High Center has been around, as I said, since 1995, has grown significantly over the past several years. We now have almost 200 businesses that are part of the center. And we educate, and I'll tell you a little more about that, but we educate executives. But because we've been successful and because we kind of saw this need, I've been very passionate about, we gotta fix this on the front end. Why don't people know this stuff before they get into these businesses? So I talked to the college and we did get a tenured professor. We helped fund it to get a minor now. We have a minor in family business and entrepreneurship. So we partnered that up. You take 2 classes in entrepreneurship, okay, I can write the business plan, I get the financing, but then 2 classes on how do I build governance in that business as it grows? How do I write succession plans? How do I deal with family and family governance? So that's a nice 1-2 punch, because really, let's be honest, if you become a successful entrepreneur, what are you? You're a family business. I mean, your kids are probably gonna wanna come work at it because you say, oh wow, that's a big business, I'd like to go work at it. You accumulate wealth, so what are you gonna do with that? I mean, you gotta start thinking about, what do I do with that? How do I pass that on? And so we're now teaching undergrads that, so that when they get out into the family business, they got it, they understand it, and they can actually help some of the next gens who are, been there a while, to better understand some of these things. And then, just in January, we approached, the graduate school. We have a graduate school at the college also. So they have developed a family business and entrepreneurship certificate. So basically there again, you take 2 entrepreneurship classes, 2 family business classes, you get a certificate. So again, if you know people who are even, certainly targeted at family business executives, but also at accountants, attorneys, financial planners, if you're working with a family business, that's a great certificate to have, because you can put that on your resume. It's a baccalaureate approved, from graduate school. Plus, you're also then, it stacks to an MBA or a master's in strategic leadership. So if you take those 4 classes, you're a third of your way onto your MBA. So if you want to keep going, you get an MBA. But either way, so now we have, education on the front end, we have education on, the graduate level, and then we also have the High Center, which, Tim's involved with out there, so he certainly knows, hopefully he speaks to the benefits of that. So what I'm gonna do, most of my presentation is about the High Center. So that's what I do. I will touch briefly on, as I already have, on some of those things that the college is doing. But this is what we do. 1995, we focus on family and privately held businesses, although we have recently expanded, and I won't get into that. But the same things we're doing for family business, we're finding work for nonprofits. So we have started a nonprofit center. So these services that you'll see that are targeted at family business are also now offered to nonprofits. They're a little different. We have to modify them a little bit, but a lot of times, peer groups, education, and best practice surveys are also very helpful for nonprofits. But this is about family business. We are now one of the oldest and largest, I think we're the largest revenue generating center in the country, because most of them don't provide services for a fee. They're just endowed by someone. So they just hire somebody who gets paid to, go on some seminars for family business. We actually run peer groups. We do a lot of things. And as I said, about almost 200 members, and we are affiliated with the college. So we are part of E-Town College. We're employed by E-Town. The 3-minute version of this is probably going to be more entertaining and exciting than I am anyway, so I'm going to show you this video, and then I'll circle back and quickly touch on some of the things in further detail, but I think this video really gives you a good idea of what we do.
Would it surprise you to know that 90% of all businesses in the U.S. are privately held or family-run businesses? These businesses are the backbone of our nation's economy. Unfortunately, only 30% of family businesses are passed on to a second generation. The number drops as low as 10% for the third generation. This happens for a variety of reasons: a death in the family, lack of successors, maybe the business was built to be sold. Sometimes these topics and business realities can lead to awkward conversations between family members. That's why family and private businesses have a lot to gain from proper planning, education, and support networks. The High Center was founded in 1995 to provide individuals and families with the tools and skills needed to keep their businesses successful, livelihood secure, and their communities flourishing. Successful entrepreneurs often face growth challenges because of their success. They also accumulate wealth in the business that needs to be successfully managed and transitioned to the next generation. By focusing on 3 key services, the High Center provides measurable value to our member businesses. The first service focuses on awareness. Getting ahead of the "you don't know what you don't know" makes a difference. Using best practice surveys, we help your company to identify opportunities to improve your business, ownership, and family governance best practices. The survey results also ensures that the family and executive team are strategically aligned and communicating effectively. The center will then meet with your team to compare your results to similar businesses and to provide recommendations for next steps. We also offer an exit planning survey, which ensures that owners are financially and emotionally ready to exit, and that they have empowered an executive team to run the business when they leave. Our second service aims to educate and motivate through our Leadership Speaker Series. These events provide an opportunity for you to connect with other local business leaders and to learn from and be inspired, live and in person, by top business leaders from around the world. A value worth its weight in gold. Our cornerstone event is the High Center Forum, and it is attended by over 1,500 executives. Our third service, Executive Peer Groups, helps leaders apply the principles that they have learned. Peer groups are undoubtedly one of the most valuable and important services of the High Center. You will learn from and share with like-minded leaders as you discuss business, family, and personal issues of mutual interest in a supportive, confidential, and non-judgmental environment. Each peer group is also facilitated by several professionals, former CEOs and business experts that will add value and experience to the group discussions. The High Center services are available to business executives in multiple counties, including Lancaster, York, Dauphin, and Berks, as well as the Lehigh Valley. More information can be found on our website at thehighcenter.com. There's no time like the present to join our center. Partnering for your success is the heart of our mission.
Okay, yeah, so those are, the 3 core services, basically, and I can relate to this, having, run a family business. There's a lot of things I didn't know. And partly because I wasn't educated on it and nobody taught me yet. So we try to cut that down right away with best practice survey. We talk to some of the best, family companies that are in their 3rd and 4th generation and said, what are the things these companies need to do to get to the 3rd and 4th generation? We put it in a survey, we go in and we survey right now. And I've done, again, dozens of these, and I haven't done one yet where I went in and everybody said, hey, we're perfect. In fact, usually there's so many things they realize that they need to do that they're not doing. And I said, well, don't panic, that was me, just let's do these things first. These are the A's, and then we'll work on the B's. But they immediately see, I should be doing that. And so we fix it, And then the next part's the education. We bring in some of the best speakers in the world to educate, and then that didn't do it either. I mean, I used to go to a lot of seminars and I'd learn a lot of stuff, and I'd say, yeah, you know what, I gotta do that for my business. And then I go back to work and the phone would ring and I, forgot all about it. You need accountability, and you need to apply what you learn, and that's probably the most powerful part. We now run 28 peer groups with executives who get together, they learn these things, and then their peers say, as they did to me, Mike, you said you were gonna do that, and you didn't do that yet, did you? No, I didn't. Did you change your mind? No, I didn't change my mind. Well, then when are you gonna do it? And, I needed people like that, because nobody was holding me accountable, and if you don't make those changes, it doesn't do any good to learn about making those changes. So really, that's the secret sauce. And then you learn something new, and you say, okay, I gotta learn the next thing, and now I gotta be educated on it, now I gotta apply it. And then just when you get it pretty good, the business grows and grows, and then the things you were doing aren't enough anymore. You gotta have some different governance. You know, when you're managing 15 employees, it's very different than managing 400 employees. So obviously, the governance that we were using when we sold the company was very different than it was when we were at, 20 employees. And so you learn that along the way. So that's really what we do. So really what we do is we serve and strengthen privately held and family-owned businesses through succession planning, executive leadership training, and then we're hoping, they can build their legacies from what we do. And I don't do that alone. I've got a tremendous team that supports us at the center now. As you saw, we go into York and Berks, and we've grown. We started more in Lancaster County 10 years ago. It was just me and an assistant. So I'm blessed that now I have this great team of people that are providing these services through several counties now and through 200 businesses. And again, I showed you this. This is what we kind of talk to family businesses about. It's the circle of being aware, being educated, apply it. Be aware, educate, apply. And that's really what our services are designed to do. So you saw in, the best practice survey was in the video. That's where we start, and then we educate. And I think if you look at some of the speakers that we brought to Lancaster County, we're very proud of that. I mean, we've got some of the better minds in the world coming here. We've had Jim Collins, Patrick Lencioni, John Maxwell, CEO of Ford who turned Ford around, Alan Mulally. We had the founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak, here last week. So we get to educate from some of the best leadership thinkers and some of the best business people in the world to teach us how do we lead our companies better. This is who we had this year. I have some things to hand out if you're interested in any of this. Some of these are open to the public. So we had Seth Godin here, who's a great marketing mind, in October. And as I said, Wozniak was here. Those are two public events. So if anybody's interested in coming to hear some of these great speakers, we do bring them to this area. And then we have some other events. We have Deanne Turner coming. So if you know any family businesses that would be interested, they could be our guest at that. We do one in E-Town now. We do one in the Berks-Lehigh area because we have folks up there. But Deanne's was the VP of Talent at Chick-fil-A, and she wrote a book, Bet on Talent. So who doesn't want a culture like Chick-fil-A? So she's going to teach us about how to build a culture like Chick-fil-A. So those are the kind of folks that come in and educate us on some of those things. And then, as I said, peer groups is probably the most powerful thing. We have 28 groups. We have both CEO groups, so if you're running the company, you're in a CEO group with other CEOs. But then we also have key exec groups. And there we mix it up because we want the finance person to be in with the ops person to be in with the sales person, because they all tend to have their own departmental mindsets. And if you really want to become the CEO, you can't have a departmental mindset, you've got to have a company mindset. So we get them in a room together, and so they learn to kind of think like a CEO. So someday, when that's time for succession and the CEO steps aside, the key execs are well trained to step into that role. And again, that's going to help these family businesses survive if they're training and developing their leadership. I won't get into the details of how that worked, but so basically, you'd think for all this, great speakers and everything, if we weren't a nonprofit, we'd probably be charging around $25,000, or we probably could get some companies to pay that. But we only charge $2,500 because we do have an endowment that gives us some money, but we get a lot of money from corporate partners like accountants and attorneys who promote the center. But then we do charge each membership company $2,500 to be part of the center. And it's not just small companies. We have some, and these folks are all participating in peer groups too, so it's not like they're just writing a check and saying, hey, I'm part of the High Center. I mean, we have CEO groups with Her Foods, the CEO of Her Foods, the CEO of Four Seasons Produce. These are $300-400 million companies, and they're getting together religiously every other month to process issues that they're having. Now, $300-400 million companies, are together with other $300, $400 million companies because they have those kind of issues. But then we also have some $5 million companies in there together with more $5 million companies. And as they grow, they may be moved to another peer group where they're, you know, in the right size. You gotta right size them because the issues need to be right sized, but it's not just small. And then here you can see the growth of the center. Obviously, COVID hurt us a little bit because everybody likes to meet together. And when we couldn't meet together, some people said, well, when we meet together again, I'll join again. And they did. So we've seen significant growth. If you add up all of our businesses together, they do about $13 billion worth of sales, and they employ 24,000 people. So we have a big impact on a lot of families and a lot of family businesses and a lot of employees. And then quickly, this is the undergrad program that we started. It is now the second most popular minor at the college, and we haven't even really promoted it to the outside world yet, behind international business. So they're coming in, they are taking this, they get it. So we are educating a lot of students every year at the undergrad level. And we do some fun things. We go to trips, we go to DC, we've been to other family businesses. So I think that's really fun for me too, to kind of interact with some of the students of family business at the undergraduate level. And then this is the certificate program. Again, that just started in January, so we had a class. Our first class is over. We're into our second class now, and they just keep rotating those 4 classes. So in the course of a year, if you wanted to finish your certificate, you could do it. It's all online, so it's very handy for these folks that are taking it. And we're seeing that gain popularity also. And so, again, I think we are the only institution. None of those Ivy League schools really have a business center, a graduate program, and an undergraduate program. Nobody does. E-Town does. So we're real proud of that, and we want to get that message out to be, the home of family business, because we're way ahead of a lot of those people. We've been doing this a lot longer than Cornell and Columbia. So we want to keep that momentum going. And then the other thing that we're really proud of, because we are so prominent, they've asked me to go down to DC several times, because we just don't put on seminars and have people come in. We're engaged with all these family businesses personally in our peer groups. And so I've gone down a few times to help build this caucus. What we did is first we went around and we met with a bunch of representatives and senators to say, hey, we really need to address family business needs and we need a voice. And so now they just formed it. We had our first caucus meeting, and I actually went down and spoke to congressmen and senators, and it's a little old E-Town College. I mean, we were at the forefront of that. And so we had our first caucus meeting. We have another one coming up in May, so we'll have these congressmen and senators together on a regular basis. And they actually came to our forum last year, Family Enterprise USA. They brought their attorneys, and they brought like 5 or 6 people up here. And we had a lunch with some of our family business leaders. So now they had a chance to hear from the family businesses what's going on, as well as they had a chance, the attorneys, to tell what's going on in DC. What's happening with the estate tax? What's happening with the income tax? And can you influence that so that it doesn't negatively affect my business? I don't know if you're aware of it, but when you die, you pay 40% estate tax. Now you pay tax on all that your whole life. You paid your income tax, and then you die and you pay 40%. If you're a farmer, when all your wealth is in your land, you gotta sell the farm to pay your taxes. That's crazy. And it's portrayed as though this is the ultra rich. Even if you're making, over $200,000, they portray it as ultra rich. That's a family business. They're pass-throughs. They're S corporations. So they get taxed individually for that, but that's their working capital. So those are the kind of things that we're now educating some of these representatives on, because they don't understand some of that. And so you can't just say, oh, everybody who makes over $200,000 is ultra wealthy. No, they're not, they're family businesses. So anyway, that's something we're very excited about, that so we kind of got all the bases covered now. We got undergrad, we got grad, we got continuing executive education, and now we have a voice in, DC. So we're very excited to be on the forefront of family business. I hope you have me back maybe in 5 years from now, and I can tell you, even more exciting things that are happening in the world of family business. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate you listening. And if you have any questions, or if I have time, I'd like to answer them for you. Yes, sir. I think you were up first.
Yes, how would the structure of Rotary apply to the concepts that you presented today?
Well,